In this video, we are recapping the severe weather earlier this week. Then, we are looking into the future as a big storm is bringing the chance for more tornadoes, hail, and damaging winds through the middle of next week. The Storm Prediction Center has put out a big 30% day 4 risk, and no, this is not Groundhog Day. This is a new developing severe weather threat that we are about to break down right now. Welcome back, y'all. Ryan Hall here with the weather forecast. At least 54 tornadoes tore through 7 states last week in a multi-day severe weather outbreak. On Monday, March 21st, the storms fired off throughout Texas, and we covered dozens of tornadoes as they happened in a 10-hour-long live stream. At least 27 tornadoes have been confirmed, including the Jacksboro EF3 that tore through a local high school. We even watched several tornadoes live in Round Rock and Elgin, Texas, where a Chevy truck survived a direct hit from a twister in a now viral video. Then on Tuesday, March 22nd, over 50 initial tornado reports came from Mississippi, Alabama, and Louisiana, and just after 8 p.m., we witnessed a destructive tornado move through New Orleans, causing multiple injuries and 1 fatality in the now confirmed EF3 tornado. This was a major severe weather event, and I know a lot of you guys are new here. You found me because of this. I'm glad you found my channel. I wish it were on better terms, but I am very glad that you're here because now it's time we start looking into the future, as it does look like another severe weather event is on the way. All right, let's take a look at the whole lower 48 here as we look at the future radar. This is what it could look like as we go into the future. That's the time and date above my head in Eastern time. We're pretty quiet across a lot of the US except for, look at this big old thing over here on the West Coast. You guessed it, that's the disruptor that's going to screw up our weather across the whole rest of the US. But first, it's going to drop a bunch of rain and cause all kinds of problems on the West Coast, especially down there in California. Big time heavy rain's going to start from Sacramento down to San Jose around 2 a.m. tomorrow morning, and it's going to persist for a while as we have a big plume of moisture coming up from the Pacific Ocean and scraping against those mountains and just kind of wringing out all the moisture over here. And look at this, around 10 or 11 a.m. on March 28th, that's Monday, some of these heavy rain showers are going to be making their way into the Los Angeles region. There's likely going to be some slick roads with traffic delays down here. We are going to have heavy downpours with intermittent flooding, lots of wind and lightning, especially as this second round comes through around 7 p.m. And also all across Southern California here, we got to watch out for flash flooding and mud flows near recent burn scars. You guys know how that works. Looks like we're going to see 2 to 4 inches of rain out here. Now, the higher up in the mountains you are, the more you're going to get. But even down here in the valleys, we're going to see an inch or 2. 6 to 10 inches of snow is expected in the very high elevations, even down here in Southern California. But of course, we can expect even more than that up here in the Sierras. But let's zoom out here and look at that swirly boy as he comes in, crashes into the western U.S. You know that the rest of us are going to have some impacts out of this when you see something like that approaching the U.S. from the west. This is going to be a disruptive storm system that does eventually cause problems for the rest of us all the way through into the East Coast, likely starting on Tuesday in the form of severe weather. All right, there you have it. The Storm Prediction Center has put out a slight risk of severe weather for Tuesday, which is the day 3 outlook. This does include San Angelo, Texas. It does not include Austin, but it does go up to Dallas and Wichita Falls, Oklahoma City, and Tulsa. You are included in this. And this goes all the way up through Wichita and Kansas City up here. So this is a pretty big slight risk, and it wouldn't surprise me at all if we don't get an enhanced inside of here, possibly even higher than that as we go forward, as the ingredients for severe weather are coming together over a very large area. Okay, now we're looking at the 500 millibar wind speeds. Check out that bowling ball trough coming in through the West Coast. That's what's causing our storms and our weather over there in California. What's going to happen is that's going to traverse over the West Coast, and once it gets over here into the central U.S., this flow is really going to unlock the Gulf of Mexico moisture here and allow for some of that to start to advect in from the south and east to the north and west and start to interact with some of the cold air that's blocked up behind here inside of the trough. That is going to cause severe weather out here. That's pretty much the same exact, synoptic setup that we saw for the last week's storm. This one's going to be quite a bit different on the mesoscale level, meaning like down there close to the ground, the moisture values, the convective energy values, everything's quite a bit different here. But looking at the atmosphere from the top down, it looks like the engine is almost the same. Swapped out, Chevy, Ford, don't matter. This is a classic setup for a severe weather outbreak. As you can see here, by 5 p.m. through 8 p.m., we're going to have that trough ejection. Looks to me like it might be a neutral tilt, possibly even a little bit of a negative tilt there, allowing for that warm air and that cold air to interact in just the right way to cause some spin out here. Speaking of tornadoes, we have to look at the 850 millibar winds and see how much tornado juice we have. And honestly, right now, it looks like the shear is going to be a little bit disconnected from the actual convection, and we don't start seeing those really high values until 11 p.m., where at this point, I believe that the storms will be linear, so we'll see a big squall line of storms. Now, don't get me wrong, this does not mean that the tornado threat's not there. We've got 60 knots of that lower level jet right down here in Kansas and Missouri, and there's certainly going to be a tornado risk, and we will learn more as we get closer to the event. But right now, I'm hoping for the best, and I'm thinking that this might just be a big squall line event. And this is going to persist overnight and actually even amplify as we go into the day on Wednesday. And look at that, guys. That is some 850 millibar winds. Looks to me like it's approaching 80 knots, 75 right there south and west of Memphis. That's what you don't want to see when you're forecasting severe weather, okay? Especially if this stacks up with the 500 millibar winds. This is literally going to be the perfect situation where not only do we have a lot of wind shear and a lot of spin in the atmosphere, but we're also going to have a lot of the other energy factors that could lead to tornadoes. And that's why the Storm Prediction Center has already put out a day 4 30% risk of severe weather for parts of Louisiana, Mississippi, and Alabama. Once again, looks oddly similar to what we were talking about last week with our promise. This is a different storm, but they have every reason to do this, guys. Look, currently the models are projecting big time lower level jet winds and also elevated dew points that go quite a bit further north than what we were looking at last week. We're up in the 60s all the way up here close to Missouri. And by the way, look at the time above my head. This only goes to 2 p.m. Okay, so this is only going to increase as we get closer to 3, 4, 5, 6 p.m. and as this advex over towards the 30% risk area. And because things are a little bit more stacked up and elevated here, I'm kind of a little bit more concerned about the tornado situation here on Wednesday, okay? Now, don't get me wrong. We're going to have supercells, possibly tornadoes on Tuesday as well, and that big slight risk. But on March 30th, look at this. We're already seeing significant tornado parameter values up there around 5 or 6 in Louisiana before this gets to the area where we think conditions are going to be most favorable for severe weather. And this has everything to do with that lower level jet, the 500 millibar trough, the dew points, the convective energy, everything's coming together perfectly to create a potentially severe weather situation. And remember, this is going to keep going to the east and to the northeast and potentially cause some big problems right in through here Wednesday afternoon and evening. Okay, so from here, the severe weather threat is going to go further to the north and east. But before we talk about that, we got to thank the sponsors of today's video, which is actually the app that's providing these awesome graphics that you're seeing right now. Take it away, Ad Ryan.
Radar Omega, more than just a radar app. I've been using Radar Omega on my phone since way before they sponsored the channel, and let me tell you why. It's fast, smooth, and it always just works. It's the most customizable radar app that exists, and there's nothing even close. You can not only view radar, but also satellite and model data as well, and you can view those in 3D. Also, a network of live cameras across the US allow you to see what's really happening on the ground as that storm approaches your neighborhood. Check out the links in the description to figure out why tons of Ryan Hall Y'all subscribers are now using Radar Omega as their #1 trusted source of weather information on their phone. Now, let's get back into the video.
All right, so now looking at the lower 48, once again, zoomed out here, I'm going to show you everything, but I'm going to focus on this. Once again, that Storm Prediction Center has issued a slight risk of severe weather for the Mid-Atlantic region over here on the East Coast, because the same storm system is going to bring storms not only for the central U.S., but additionally into the deep south and then eventually into the Mid-Atlantic as well. Look here, around 10 p.m., we likely have big-time storms and supercells from Texas all the way up into Nebraska and Iowa. That is going to go eventually down here into the deep south, once again in that 30% risk zone. We're going to nail down the exact timing and placement of this as we go into the future, but right now this is just the best way to look at where those potential storms are going to pop up. And it does look like Thursday evening we're going to have a brief period of potential supercells or strong straight line damaging bow echoes coming through portions of North Carolina, Virginia, Maryland, into the Delmarva, and even maybe into New Jersey and Pennsylvania. We're going to watch that closely as we go forward. Guys, I'm telling you, over here in this part of the country, it is unheard of that you get a day 5 or day 6 slight risk of severe weather. And yes, yesterday there was a day 6. Historically, these very long-term highlighted outlooks from the Storm Prediction Center do indicate very strong severe weather events. A lot of times they lead to moderate risks or high risk events, but I do want to point out that I don't think that's the case anymore. I think the reason why we're seeing more of these rare long-term risks is because forecasting is getting better. Our weather models are getting better. Our meteorologists are better. So we're able to give you a more in-depth and long-term heads up rather than, you know, every time you see a 6-day outlook, that means that we're going to have a historic outbreak. It's not like that anymore. We're just saying, hey, you got a slight risk of severe weather, and now you have 6 days to prepare, where usually on average you only have 2 or 3. Certainly pay attention to the weather out there. It could end up being a big deal, but as of right now, I think that this is going to be a pretty general severe weather risk. But of course, I'm the weatherman, and we we are known to be wrong. So subscribe to the channel. I will update you as soon as we get new information on this. All right, super huge shout out to our members over here. We're close to 2,000 now. Once again, I do plan on posting daily now until this severe weather threat is over, so subscribe to the channel. Also, keep an eye on ryanhallyall.com/blog and shopryanhall.com. We are close to releasing the merch. A big portion of the proceeds are going to go to helping people negatively affected by severe weather. It's a great thing. You're going to love it. And we'll talk more about that tomorrow too. Goodbye.